Hello, and welcome back to the stream. For those of you who have been following along, I wasn't here last week. So last Monday, I actually went down to the WinOps conference in London. And as a result, that meant I wasn't able to stream on Monday last week. So I then also had a break on Friday. I didn't do my normal lunchtime stream because I had to go and attend to some other stuff, so I wasn't able to do that. But I am back, and I should be back on Friday as well, doing the normal lunchtime stream. So if that's something that's of interest, definitely join in. In terms of news, where are we at? So over the weekend, Matthias, dev lead on the Cake team, released a new version of Cake. So if we go up to NuGet.org and have a search for Cake, then version 0.35.0 was released. I think that number's wrong, I'll be honest. Evening, Brett, how's it going? I would have expected there would be some downloads of the new release of Cake by now, but maybe. So the interesting things in this release was that Cake now supports .NET Core 3.0. So if that is something you're interested in, then definitely take a look at that. There shouldn't be any breaking changes in this release. It's more just shoring up some of the existing functionality with a couple of additional features. So if you're interested in that, go out and have a look. The other thing that I wanted to mention before digging into anything tonight is that if you haven't already, you should definitely go and sign up for Hacktoberfest. This is a yearly competition that means that you can potentially get a free t-shirt and some stickers from DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is the main sponsor, the main organizer of the event. The idea is quite simple, that over the course of October, you submit a number of pull requests to an open source project on GitHub, and if you do more than 4, then you can get a t-shirt. And I think I'm right in saying that Brett in the chat room has updated a PowerShell module that allows you to find issues on GitHub that are marked with the Hacktoberfest label. I could have just made that up, but I think it's the same Brett in the chat room that I saw on Twitter being talked about. So definitely check out Hacktoberfest, and it's the same Brett. Look at that. So definitely check it out. It's really simple. If you're already doing the open source thing and you're already on GitHub, then you're more than likely to do 4 pull requests within the month. So just make sure that you're signed up for it, and you should be able to get a free t-shirt out of it. I think I've done this event the last 3 years, maybe 4, can't remember. It's a bit of fun more than anything, and you get, like I say, you get a free t-shirt. So definitely worth checking out. So that was that one. I mentioned the latest release of Cake. I mentioned Hacktoberfest. I think that was the only things that I had to mention. Here's the... Yes, I knew it was something like that. So let me do a Google search for this to bring it up. Okay, we'll copy that. So get PS good first issue. I'm assuming that's on the PowerShell gallery. And if we look at the project... Oh, that's unfortunate. It doesn't have a project link. Okay, let's... Nope. Package details. That's unfortunate. I'm assuming it's on GitHub. GitHub.com. Yes, first issue. Search. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Copy. Paste. There we go. Tom Lars. So this now has, I'm assuming it went in via a pull request. There we go. So you see, Brett made his first mistake. What he should have done is he should have done this pull request tomorrow, and then that would have been his first pull request for the Hacktoberfest event, and he would have been one pull request closer to getting a free t-shirt. But yeah, it's now got a he's saying that would have been too easy. So there's a new function that is get PS Hacktoberfest issue, which was then filtering based on whether its language is PowerShell, it's got the Hacktoberfest label, and its state is open. So effectively, it's helping you narrow down the potential issues and projects that you could be working on. So definitely take a look at that. So that was that one. And I had a thought there about something I was going to talk about, but it's completely escaped me. All right, so I was going to mention a little bit more about WinOps that I attended last week. It was a great event. I was really happy to meet some people that I haven't met before in person for the first time. So I got to meet Maurice, who's quite often in the chat room here, as well as Kim, who's quite often in the chat room here. They are both Chocolatey community members, as well as doing some work on Cake, and it was great to meet them in person for the first time. Myself and my work colleague Paul were there in attendance at WinOps. We were a sponsor of the event, so we did a workshop on Chocolatey on the first day. Paul had a talk about Chocolatey on the second day. And we had lots of people coming up to speak to us on the booth, so it was all in all was a really good event. And Brett saying I was supposed to be there but cancelled due to horrendous schedule and poorly scheduled. Oh man, that sucks. I hope the kids are feeling better. Language and label can be over. I missed that point as well. So Brett's mentioning that on the module that I showed earlier, that you can override the language and labels that are passed in to that commandlet. So if you want to narrow down for different purposes, it must just be the default is PowerShell the WinOps the conference is really good. I've been there every year since it started. This year was in a slightly different venue. Slightly different? No, it was in a different venue. That was completely different from the previous one. So we had to try and find it, which was interesting because there was all sorts of roadworks and stuff around the venue, and it meant that it was kind of awkward to get to, unfortunately. But roadworks, I mean, you can't really account for those. So all in all, definitely worth attending. To the best of my knowledge, they're planning on doing the same again next year. So if WinOps is something that is your cup of tea, then I would definitely recommend it. So in terms of tonight, what I was planning on looking at was, I've kind of got at least one more, or probably, I want to do Cake.Recipe for at least tonight and probably Friday, and then I'm hoping I'm going to be able to pin Mateus down for the following week so that we can go back to our Secret Squirrel project, as Brett keeps mentioning it as. So that would allow us to continue the work on that project and hopefully get something shipped. So tonight is going to be looking at Cake.Recipe, both in terms of outstanding issues for the next release, as well as some pull requests. So there is at least a couple that I think we could pull in straight away. So one was this one, which was opened automatically by the Cake.Add-in Discoverer, and I'd asked Kim whether he thought it was a good idea to pull this in, and he said he should go ahead. We should just go ahead and do it. So all that this one was doing was bumping from 140 to 172. So I'm going to go ahead and say that that is looking good. And I can go ahead and get this merged then. and pull that in. And I suspect that there will be a issue associated with this, which there is. So this one I can label up as a build issue, and I can assign it to the 200 milestone. And I should go back to that pull. No, that's a lie. What I was going to say there was I should go back to that pull request, and I should thank the person that made it. But in this situation, it's the Cake Contrib bot, so I'm not going to thank a bot for doing it. I'm just going to leave it as is. This one is a slightly more interesting one. This one was raised by Jericho, one of the Cake team members, and he pointed out that, there should be an associated issue with this. He pointed out that the way that we're running Git Release Manager is not strictly correct, and he's absolutely right. So what I mean by that is Jericho suggested that Git Release Manager doesn't work with when you've got two-factor authentication enabled. Now that's absolutely correct, right? As soon as you've got two-factor authentication enabled on GitHub, then it obviously prompts you for that second factor of authentication. And there's no mechanism within Git Release Manager to have that prompt you for some additional information. The recommendation instead is to use a token that you create within your GitHub account, and then you use that token for doing the authentication of who you are as opposed to your username and password. Now, the way that Git Release Manager is set up, it will actually accept a token as the password, but that's not crystal clear in terms of it being able to do that. And if we go over here and look at github.com/gittools/git release manager, we will see that there was a pull request went into here by Artur. As if I search here for Arturic, is that how we spell his name? I was sure it was Arturic that did it. Author. Yeah, here. Did I not spell it right? Yeah, he spotted the same thing, and he sent in a pull request, which, in addition to accepting a username and password, it would also provide the mechanism to use a token as well, which uses the OAuth flow rather than the basic flow. So it just made it more explicit that there was a mechanism to use a token. So what Jericho's done is he's made some changes in Cake.Recipe to explicitly use the token property as opposed to the username and password property. Now there's a couple of things I noticed in here that's going to annoy me, i.e. the spacing of that parameter. But aside from that, it looked good to me. So I'm going to say that I can pull it in, and then I'll go and fix that spacing issue once it's pulled in. So I'm happy to go ahead and make this change. So I'm going to say, looks good to me, because I kind of went through this and sanity checked it earlier before starting the stream. So I'm going to go ahead and merge this in. And this time I will say thank you, because it was a human behind the pull request. So I'm going to say thank you for that. Oh, it didn't actually do the merge though. So what's it doing? Oh, I did do the merge. Oh, it was just GitHub being a little bit slow. Okay, so if I go to my command line and that's cake.getter. If I go up here and do a git fetch upstream, we'll pull in those changes, git vbase upstream develop, and we'll push that to the origin, so that git push origin, so that everything is, I was going to say, why is my PowerShell window got an extra $sign, but it doesn't. It's just that they're both overlapping. Okay, so if I go into Visual Studio Code for this one, then the formatting that was going to annoy me was in was it credentials? It was. So in the credentials file, which is this one. Oh, you see, one's using spaces and one's using a tab. So tabs versus spaces all over again. I tend to use whatever my default is, which is spaces. I would have thought that that was explicit in the header.config file that we have. Well, we don't have an editor.config file, so that explains why that is. We need to add an editor.config file. So I'm going to say maint fix formatting spaces versus tabs, and then I'm going to need an editor.config file. I don't know why I haven't got one. Let's add one. And then let's see what I've got in here. And that will then flow through. So this is a maintenance one again. Add editor config file. Great, so let's push those up. Get push upstream. And then get push origin. So again, in terms of a Hacktoberfest situation, I might switch to not doing direct commits into the repository, and I might do some PRs instead. But that's just a way of slightly changing my workflow so that I can actually get some reviews. The things I'm doing here are not worthy of a PR, but if I were to do bigger work, I would probably submit it as a PR into the repository rather than directly into the repository the way that I'm doing it now. So that's that. Now the other one that I wanted to look at was, that's immoral. That's not quite strictly true. I wouldn't ever PR an adding of an editor.config file or changing spaces to tabs or tabs to spaces. But when I start doing larger pieces of work, then I want people to review it, and that's why I would say, rather than even on my own projects. So what I was kind of referring to there was, even on my own projects, I might submit a PR and have other people working on it as opposed to, or reviewing it as opposed to me doing it. Now the next one that I've been putting off looking at is this PR from, I can't remember the guy's actual name, Vadim. So it's been up there for a while. It's been up there since kind of midway through the year. But it's a fairly fundamental change to Cake.Recipe. And I've basically been putting it off. And I'll be honest, my apologies, Vadim, if you're listening back or doing anything. The fundamental premise. What was this? I encourage that at the weekend in my Git talk. Protect master branch and or from a branch. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Master branch, yes. In this scenario, I've got a develop branch. So technically it's the development work. But yeah, absolutely master should be protected. And in this scenario, I would probably protect the develop branch as well. Because that saves any unknown work going in. Now, I sort of cheat a little bit. I'll be honest. I'll put my hand up. I sort of cheat. For my own projects, I do what I'm doing here. So let's go back. I've got, if I do a git remote -v, I'm set up with both an origin, which is my fork, and an upstream, which is the original repository. Now, technically, I should be pushing everything to origin first on a branch, and then doing a PR into the upstream. And that's kind of the recommended workflow for anyone doing work on GitHub, because at least then everything is in a position where it can be code reviewed. Now, because I have direct access to both origin and upstream, I sort of cheat a little bit, and I just push directly to upstream. Now, again, I wouldn't do that for larger pieces of work, because that's just bad form. Right? You just don't do it. But it's my project. I can sort of do what I want a little bit. Throw it away with a PR. I encourage that to be kind of my Git talk. Protect master branch and PR from a branch. Yes, absolutely. Come from TFVS by any chance? Throw it away. Dagnammit. Yes, I do. So I've got a convoluted history when it comes to version control. So I started off in Visual Source Safe, going back to that. Then we jumped to SVN, and I did some stuff there. Then we jumped to TFVC. So that's original TFS version control, without the Git added in there. Then I jumped to Mercurial, and then I'm where I am now. Now, in between all of that, that's my work history. So in between all of that, I was using Git and GitHub for my open source work. But that history that I just pointed out there was my work history. So I was kind of using everything that I could. So I definitely advocate the distributed version control model, and I definitely advocate pull requests going in. In this scenario, I can say I kind of cheat, I circumvent that, but it's done in full comprehension of the best way of doing it. But it's just, this is my project, so I can push it straight in. Showing my age a little bit, probably. Probably. Visual Source Safe was ace, right? It's amazing. And branching in TFVC, that was awesome. That was such a quick operation. I mean, copying the entire folder structure between two branches was great. So no, I have a potted history when it comes to version control, but I think everyone's pretty much now seeing the light, and we are pretty much. Git has won the war. Did you see? It got pointed out to me that was it Bitbucket? Bitbucket are removing Mercurial repositories now. They were kind of one of the last holdouts, or one of the main commercial holdouts with regard to Mercurial support, and Bitbucket is no longer going to support Mercurial repositories going forward. So Git is here to stay, I think. Anyway, so from a Cake.Recipe perspective, their Cake.Recipe is inherently coupled to AppVeyor. So I love AppVeyor. I'm not going to belittle the point. It's been there since the start when it comes to doing any sort of CI on Windows. It's incredibly easy to use. It just works. So when I first started building Cake.Recipe, AppVeyor is and was my default target for doing any sort of CI. Now, there has been some suggestions made that Cake.Recipe should be made more provider agnostic, and in principle I have no objections to that. So what Vadim has worked on here, and that's the wrong pull request, what Vadim has worked on is an extension to some work that he already created, which was to break Cake.Recipe away from its close coupling to AppVeyor, and instead get the information that it needs from a provider model, right? So this this pull request here is to implement the Azure DevOps pipelines support within Cake.Recipe. So if you wanted to use AppVeyor and or Azure DevOps pipelines, then you can definitely do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking at reviewing this PR, because I've not actually looked at it at all. I've basically said within the PR itself, I'm not going to look at this until we get to a point where we have a stable version of Cake.Recipe, and then we can start looking at potentially breaking Cake.Recipe to support additional providers. Now, we're at that point now, so I want to pull down, I want to start having a look at this. So this is pool number 373. So I'm going to do 373 head PR 373. That's going to pull down and create me a branch. So then I'm going to try and get this under my fingers, which is git switch, which is PR for, oh, that doesn't have, I need to look into that. That might be a squirrel moment there. PR 373. So I have the potential squirrel moment there is that I tried to tab complete the PR, the branch name, but the git switch command doesn't have that option. And I'm wondering whether a newer version of PoshGit would have that additional tab completion, because you get that when you do a git checkout, auto tab complete on the branch name, but it wasn't working there for the switch command. But anyway, where are we? So I've moved over to that branch, and there's a change for some reason. Oh, that's an orange file. That's fine. So that will get removed when we rebase this branch. So this branch is kind of out of date now, I suspect. So if we have a quick look and we visualize the history of this branch, then we can say no to that just now. Then this branch was taken from 5 months ago. There's obviously been numerous changes into that. So we're going to rebase this on the develop branch, and this may or may not have conflicts. Yeah, I thought it might. So then we need to try and resolve them. So git merge tool. Now we're into merging of branches and stuff, and this number of conflicts is 1. So interesting. Why is there a conflict there? Let's have a look. Oh, it's just the spacing. So we remove the white space on 1, and 1's gone to string. So I suspect what we want to do there is we want to say, let's just sanity check that on the PR itself. So in here we've got a toString. Yeah, so he's explicitly changed it from int to string. So we want to select C, and then we want to also remove the white space. So let's just take that out. So let's save and close that, and then see where we get to. So there's another conflict on here, which is temporarily switch to local sources. Why would we want to do that? Why was he doing that? Or was that me doing that? Recipe.cake. Let's have a look. Let's see what he's doing here. Build provider.cake. Task.cake. Interesting. That file hasn't changed. Not within this PR anyway. Oh, hold on. Did he... he had a commit, look. Interesting. So the rebase that we're doing is applying each of the commits on top of each other. Now, so in this commit, if we look at this commit specifically, then he will have temporarily switched them and put them back again. So he will have added them in and put them back again. So the question is, how do we deal with this as part of the rebase? Ultimately, I think we want to how would we do this? I mean, it's already added in the other lines as part of this merge. We could obviously move them. We could obviously remove them so that the end result is this, because that's where we want to be. The end result is that we want it to be on 100, because that's what we're currently using, which is 100. So, how best to deal with this? I think what we're going to do here is we're going to say B, and then for the next one, we're actually going to say B as well. Why is that not taking my suggestion? I want B, don't want C, so the end result is that. So if we save that and close it again, then we're back at the command line, which is this one. So then we can say git got, we can say git rebase continue. Then we get some more merge conflicts, which I guess are expected. So let's have a look and see what's going on here. So this is in appfair.cake. So let's go and have a look and see what's going on in appfair.cake, which was this one. Oh, I see. Now, why is that? Oh, he's added those in. So if we look at the resulting file, then we've added in the provider, and we've added in this one. And in this one, there's a conflict because it's all been removed in this side. So both of those tasks have been removed in the appfair.cake file. So there is an upload appfair task as well as a clear appfair cache task. And it's all been removed. Now, the one thing that we won't have in this PR is this work. So this work got added in order to say whether or not we should report messages to CI. Now, that's an interesting one. Because so let's look again at what this is doing. So in here, it's saying upload artifact. So the provider that Vadim has created has added in the concept of, if we have a look at the build provider, the build provider here has, it's an interface essentially, and it has the concept of, well, let's have a look at it. Build provider.cake. So we look over here. It has the concept of the repository, the pull request, the build, and then the upload artifact, because those are things that are common across all of them. Now, what has been added in here is something that may or may not be specific to AppVeyor. So there's work but it's put it in. This may need to be moved somewhere else, but for now I think I'm happy to leave it in AppVeyor. And okay, so that's that part. This part was the addition of a message to the task, and now that that's moved into the upload of the implementation, we might need to change that as well. So for now, the merge conflict is to say C. So there's going to be no, why are you, you're going to say C, so there's no source line. And this one's actually incorrect. We don't want to add that in. And then we'll leave all the other things, because they were already there. Okay, so I'm going to say save that, and I'm going to close it. And then we're back to the command line. Git rebase continue. And then hopefully we're getting close now. So we've got another conflict here, which was the removal of those things. So again, for this one, we'll just say that we want B, because that's what we ultimately want it to be. And then we can close that out. And then we can say rebase continue. No changes. Did you forget to use git add? No, I don't think I did. So the file that changed, so we can say, because we didn't change it, so we can skip that one. So we can say skip on that one. Beautiful. Okay. So that is us back to the beginning. Right. So then we need to further review the actual changes that happened in here. So let's go back in here and let's go back to the beginning of this PR. So Azure pipelines. Let's have a look at the conversation. This PR adds support for running Cake.Recipe on Azure pipelines with all main features. Tests run on Azure pipelines you can check here, which was built from a custom branch and fork. Type of number property in build info infos was changed from int to string. And now I'm okay with that, because if we need it to actually be an int, we know it's an int, we can change it. iBuild provider interface is extended by upload artifact. There is implementation of iBuild provider for Azure pipelines. Upload AppVeyor artifact task renamed to upload artifacts task. Okay. Oh, I see. Yes. open questions. The main task for running on CI is called appver. I didn't rename it due to backwards compatibility. What we can do to it, what we need to do with it, because if I want to run my cake on Azure Pipelines with Cake.Recipe, I need to call appver target, which is a little confusing. I agree with that. So let's come back to that one. And I said, thank you for submitting this PR, I really appreciate it. Just make you aware, main focus just now, yada yada yada. Another thing which needs to be updated for Azure Pipelines is that CodeCov doesn't require a token on Azure Pipelines here. Actually, you still need to specify the token when running on Azure Pipelines. The only CIs that don't need a token is appver, Travis CI, and Circle CI. And that with me just saying we're not quite there yet. Okay, so let's have a look and see what changes went in here. So this change is, and again, this is kind of where the coupling came in. So previously I was basically saying, if I'm running on appver, then potentially do something. So now it's flipped over to say that if it's not a local build, then take the appropriate action. And the appropriate action is to take the build provider's upload artifact and call it there. So this is absolutely the right thing to do. Is running on appver, is local build, and then again calling the build provider. So I'm going to say I viewed that. This one, appver.cake, this was us removing the upload appver artifact task. Fine. And we remove some white space there, remove some white space there. And then here we are taking the number, because it is a number from appver, and we're calling toString on it. That makes sense to me. And then in here we're making that a private variable, which is then there, and then we're setting that equal to what the appver provider that was passed in. And then in the upload artifact method, which is being called, we're calling the upload artifact method on provider, which again makes sense. And this is us providing a provider, love it. This is us providing a provider specifically for Azure Pipelines. So it implements the iTag info interface. So we're saying Azure Pipelines tag info is accepting an ITF build provider. At the moment, there's no ability to know it is a tag or not. At the moment, there's no ability to know is it a tag or not. Is tag is equal to repository starts with refs tag. Oh, interesting. Name equals is tag. Okay. Oh, name equals is tag is then equal to the either that branch name or the string.empty. Is tag is what's being set. Name. I'm curious as to how that's going to work, because yeah, curious about that. Azure Pipelines repository info, the piece of information that we're interested in are the branch, the name, and the tag. That's fine. Azure Pipelines pull request info, update to after upgrade to 33. Okay, so that's as part of that work, as part of this work for 2.2.0.0, we can do that work now. So we can do that because he's pulling that specifically from the environment variables. Okay, that's fine. I like the fact that there's a to-do there on that. And then we're just getting the build provider number and adding it to there. And then in here, we are populating this with all of the previous information. And then there's going to be a tf build commands upload artifact, which is doing the same work as the other one. I like it. And we took that work, which was the upload artifacts, and it's renamed to just upload artifacts. And then in here, I'm going to say that we are pulling in the build provider, which we are. All of that makes sense to me. Now, hold on though. Hold on. There was some work that went in recently that we may need to think about. And that was some additional artifacts were being uploaded, weren't they? Okay. I seem to remember, or is it still an open issue? Artifact. There. So there's an open issue to add more artifacts to being uploaded, which includes the Dupe Finder results, the code coverage results, that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's fine. So that's not been pulled in yet. So they would need to go into this new method, which is fine. Or this new task, that's fine. Change from int to string. We added that to the interface. Need to be replaced with is running on Azure Pipelines or is hosted on after upgrade to 0.33, which we are now at. So that's another to do, and that's just, so all of this looked good to me. Now I forgot to do my whole viewed thing. So I can say view to that, view to that, view to that, view to that, view to that. Okay. Now the question becomes, Vihatsura has got, it is a branch, so in theory, having rebased that, I should be able to push that through. So, yeah, we could. So let's have a little looky here. Now, how are we going to do this for the best? We've already done the work of rebasing it. I can, or I could, you know what, I'm just going to merge it and I'm just going to reference it back. So I'm going to say this one. Nope, I'm going to say this one. Git checkout, develop, git merge, no FF from PR373, git push upstream, and git push origin. Now I'm going to say, I'm going to go up to here and have a look for that commit that I just did. I'm going to grab that URL and I'm going to say Vihatsura, this has been rebased and merged here. As a result, I am going to close this PR and PR. However, your work has been correctly attributed in the commits merged into the development branch. So I'm going to say comment, and then I'm going to say Vihatsura. Let's just put this in. That's still valid. So I'm going to say close and comment on that. And then what I guess we need to do is we need to, we should probably be checking our, we did build, look at that. What we need to do is then go and have a look at some of these to-dos that were left. So if we do a wee search here for to-do, the ones I'm interested in are this one. So for this build. This is a sanity check. We are now saying that we are building with. Where's the thing? This one. You see, we're not, but we are. No, I'm looking at the wrong thing. So the supported. Yes, we are. Right. So if I search again here for to do, and look at this one. So we're going to update to this. So we can say cut that, and as a result of that going in there, and as a sanity check, let's go and have a look at cakebuild.net and look at our API and look at it for the TF build. TF build environment info. It now has a pull request object and is pull request. Okay. Fine. And this one now has a so the naming changed. So if we go back to what can I look for there? So we're saying is running on Azure Pipelines or is running on Azure Pipelines hosted. So let's cut that, and what have we got here? Is running on TFS or is running on BSTS. So that naming changed, so we can save those. And the other ones are nothing to do with that. Okay, so we can say in our changes, and we each save that file. So the changes here are going to be related to that PR. So that PR was related to 259. 259 is still open. So we're going to say here GH259 implement to do comments. Okay. Get push upstream. Get push origin. Right. So in 259, we've still got some work to do here. Do you think of crossing? It's an interesting question. Do you think about migration to frosting? It seems going to simplify Cake.Recipe development. I haven't thought about it, to be honest. No. I'm happy with the way things are with Cake.Recipe being in scripts rather than a project file. So no. Now, the last remaining question with regard to this then was the name of the entry task that was mentioned. So, let's have a little look and see. So what's being discussed there? If we say match whole word, then the target, So that's not something we care about. Appware's got lots of it. This is not the one I'm worried about. It's this one. What do we rename that to? Continuous integration? Maybe? Would be the obvious one. Interesting. No. Because this... The reason I'm hesitating is because if I rename that, then it's going to break everywhere. Now, that's no reason to not do it, but let's, as an example, go here to cake.gem. Then if we look at this appware.yaml file, then it's running appware. Because, I mean, that's what it's called. But the point that Vadim is making is that as soon as you add in another build system into the mix, for example, Azure Pipelines, the equivalent YAML file, or whether you're doing it through the Azure DevOps UI, in order to execute that entry task, it's going to say Azure pipelines.yaml file, and in there it's going to have the same thing. It's going to have that you're running target appware. Now that doesn't make any sense. So the question becomes what to rename this to. But when we do that, every single project that's using Cake.Recipe will have to update their build system, unless we leave it in, and we could duplicate it. I don't want to do that, because what we could do is I could pick this up, I say copy, paste, and then change appware to Azure Pipelines. But as soon as we add in another one, which is GitHub Actions, whether it's whatever, that's not going to work. Or it will work, but it won't scale. It would need to be repeated. So I think the suggestion would be to rename this and then take the hit, which is to take the hit and have to update it on lots of projects that are already implementing Cake.Recipe. And it feels like that's the right way to do it. It really does. So, should maybe just do it. I don't know why my fingers aren't moving. I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to make the change. I really am. It's situations like this that I kind of rely on some of the other folks in the Cake community being on the channel. But it doesn't look like there's any Cake members on the chat directly. So that's unfortunate. So I might just have to make the call myself and then just tell them that they weren't here to help out with the planning. So it's their own fault, really. I'll chuckle. I've just seen a tweet from Maurice saying that he's not going to make it tonight on the stream, so he's not going to be here. What to do? I can make what? Okay, so it's all on Brett then. What would you do, Brett? Would you rename this to something other and take the hit across lots of projects. Let's have a quick look. Although, I've just thought of something really evil. I've just thought of something really evil. If we go here to this spreadsheet, this is an outdated spreadsheet, but it'll still serve the purpose. If we go over here and say which projects are currently using Cake.Recipe. So there's currently 111. Now, if I make this change, every single one of these projects will break if they update to the latest pre-release version of Cake.Recipe, and they will have to make a change to their YAML file for it to work. But that is potentially 111 pull requests for Hacktoberfest. So it would serve a purpose to get myself a t-shirt, but it's still 111 pull requests to pull that in and make that change. Interesting. So what would your executive decision be, Brett? Would you... So here are your choices. You can rename this and have to update 111 repositories on GitHub. We could duplicate this task and have it called Azure Pipelines and have it duplication. Or we leave it as AppVeyor and there is an inconsistency with the task name when running on something other than AppVeyor. Those are your three choices. What would your choice be? And yeah, just do my part for Hacktoberfest. It's all about the t-shirt. So 3 choices, 1, 2, or 3. I've already forgotten what the order was, so maybe don't just say 1, 2, or 3. What would you do? I'm going to wait for a response, and then and then I'll have to do something. I know what my gut's telling me to do, but I'm curious as to at least what one other human thinks. If it's a pre-release, then I would go for the change. Major version bump for breaking changes in the development. Yeah, absolutely. So we're currently at 1.0.0 of Cake.Recipe. We're already building on 2.0.0. So it's fully expected that there's going to be breaking changes. Anyone pulling in the pre-release version. So it's fully expected that things are going to break. Yes. Ship it. See, I'd come to the same conclusion as well. So there's a few places that this is going to need to change. So this is no longer going to be AppVeyor task. I'm going to call this, my gut is telling me that this is continuous integration. Now you see that's dubious as well, because it could technically be continuous delivery, or even more, it could be continuous deployment. But I'm tempted to say continuous integration task. Continuous integration task. Copy that. And then in here, this is just building up the DAG. So I'm going to put those in there. Beautiful. And then the task builder's name is going to be no longer AppVeyor task, it's now that. So if we go back and search for AppVeyor, this one won't change because this one is currently pinned to. There's a comment there. If it encourages consistency across the tasks further down the line for Azure pipelines, then it's unnecessary. I tend to agree. Caveat, I literally have no context other than the brief description. So no, see, it's too late. You said you were going to make the executive decision. It's all on you. It's all on you. Now, the one caveat to the change is that the build of Cake.Recipe, which uses Cake.Recipe, is currently pinned to version 1.0. So I don't need to change it here because it's still using the old task name which exists in that nupcake. So that one's fine. That's a misnomer. That is gonna have to do a wee search for that as well. I'm gonna put a note in there. I need to search for the task name of AppVeyor, because that will have changed. No, don't need to change it there. This is going to change to continue. Let's paste and let's just get rid of the task on the end. So continuous integration. That is the print of the cache. Those two are fine. Always fall back to AppVeyor. That's fine. That's fine. Nope. Myself, which is the reason, criteria reason. Should lose something there. What's this? Required to work correctly with AppVeyor because it's code conf. Oh, that's a specific case, so that's fine. Don't need to worry about that. Credentials, those are still going to be required. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. How was he doing that one? I'll go back and check that PR again. Author Sura. This one. Changes. This one. Let's expand them all actually. Is running on Azure. Just curious as to whether I need to note that as well. Is running on AppVeyor. Might not need that anymore as a. Might not need this anymore as a high level construct because we've now got the whole provider mechanism. So we maybe change that. Credentials, it's fine. AppVeyor is running on AppVeyor. Thanks, Brett. I appreciate it. I fully expect I've broken at least a few people with this change. AppVeyor publish. What's that doing? Oh, that's not an AppVeyor publish anymore. That's going to be continuous integration publish. Because it's now potentially running somewhere else. I'm not going to worry about documentation just now because, well, just because. And then the other one that I wanted to search for was at least one other instance of AppVeyor. This one. So what we said was, this is a task, and that task is dependent on AppVeyor. She's to report. Oh, Something's happened. I'm no longer connected to